Thank you for listening to the Clive Barker Podcast. In episode 411, we give the 411, see what I did there, on an upcoming Nightbreed release, some Hellraiser 2 appreciation, and show some support for our friends at Little Spark Films for their next movie project, Deathworld. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art. But Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. Click the side banner and follow the link to the Etsy shop, where the artwork has returned from local galleries. New stuff in there. I just got my second painting, Snail Bait. Welcome, this is episode 411 of the Clive Barker Podcast. It's the 411. Because this is a news episode. We got some cool news. Actually, just a little bit. It's been a slow year so far. You know, we're expecting something big to come at any moment.
Yeah.
Right. But our first one, the big one, is Nightbreed. There's a re-release of the Nightbreed soundtrack coming out, a 2-disc reissue. So far, the news on this is really sparse, and I only found out about this as I mentioned this in our last commentary episode, really briefly, but
Day of the Dead.
Yeah. When we were talking about Day of the Dead, so this person who Draydon on this blog post, he came up to a booth at Monsterpalooza and told the people of Monster Party podcast that he was working on the liner notes for this. So I looked up his website that he mentioned on there. And, yep, sure enough, there it is. So I've got a link in the show notes. It's coming from Intrada, and it should be a 2-disc issue. In his blurb, he mentions that there's more than one version of Country Skin.
Nice.
So, but other than that, it's 2 discs, so it's obviously going to be a lot bigger than the one that we're all used to.
So, yeah, I know Country Skin is a Oingo Boingo song, right? So
yeah.
I wonder if they're going to include the Oingo Boingo, or if this is an alternate take for the country version, because that would be interesting.
I don't know. I'm interested to find that out too. And boy, I wish that this had come out when they were working on the Cabal cut and the director's cut of Nightbreed, because they really could have used extra music, right? They ended up having to loop sections of the soundtrack when they had longer scenes and stuff. So
it was a little improvised. Yeah, they had to cut stuff and mix it in, and it wasn't the ideal solution, but it worked. I remember the Cabal cut had a lot. It was much more noticeable because you went in parts that you couldn't even hear any soundtrack, or it was the same annoying bug noise. You remember? Like cicada kind of buzzing?
On which version are we talking about?
I don't know, man. Like the 4th version or the 6th version or something like that.
Yeah, but not the Blu-ray one. We're talking about the one that was screened at the... Yeah. Yeah, and of course they did the best they could with what they had at the time. And, over time, more and more footage kept becoming available. So the footage kept getting better and higher quality, and they used less and less of the VHS stuff and more of the film elements. But the soundtrack, they still only had the CD, the old CD soundtrack from the movie.
Yeah, which didn't have a lot of tracks, right? And and there's music that never made it. So I'm wondering, Intrada always puts out great soundtracks. And I found also a thread here on the Film Score Monthly board where they said, per Roger, the next Intrada release, no date given, will be a Danny Elfman score. And they linked to it and said, just stop. You had me at Elfman. And some people are speculating on what it is. Midnight Run, Summer School. Midnight Run would be great. And then, of course, now, because you found that out about the guy who's writing the liner notes, looks like this is going to be the Nightbreed one.
I think so, yeah. I mean, this is kind of a breaking news, right, from the Reef. Barkercast, breaking news from the Reef. There's no real blog posts or news announcements about this. It's just something we heard from another podcast and followed up on.
And were they the ones who said that is going to be a 2 CD? Because the liner notes guy does. Is it here in the liner notes guy blog post?
I thought so.
I just see the Drelden posted, the Midian's out of the Entrada bag, properly announced on the day of the Ultimate Monster Kid composer's birthday. So, as a beyond huge fan of Clive Barker's Nightbreed and Danny's Berserker score, this has been a grail project over a decade, long in the making for me, to do the liners for as a follow-up to Darkman. And thanks to the incredible persistence of Roger Feigelson and help from Danny's agent Laura Engel, you will hear Elfman's Tribes of the Moon like never before, along with more versions of Country Skin than you can shake a scalp at.
Yeah.
With my liners featuring new interviews from orchestrator Steve Bartek and editor Mark Goldblatt.
Yeah, so that's interesting. No, I guess he doesn't mention that on here. He said it on that podcast, the last episode of Monster Party,
which is even better.
Yeah. So I just remember him saying that it was going to be a 2-disc set, and of course, this is all super preliminary, and it's rumor, but it sounds. If they've got somebody working on liner notes, it sounds like it's pretty well set. So
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, that's probably going to be the Entrada announced that the next thing is going to be a Danny Elfman. So hopefully it will come out in the next few months. Yeah. And I'm getting flashbacks to when Lord of Illusion's 2 CD version came out.
Yeah, or Candyman, right? There was a Candyman Philip Glass extended.
Yeah, it wasn't 2 CDs, I think, but it was extended.
Yeah, but right. Yeah, because I think didn't the old one was really short, and didn't and then they made like a version that had Candyman 1 and 2. Sure,
and if you listen to our episode with
Bernard Rose.
Bernard Rose, thank you. He talks about the original. He talks more about how the soundtrack was made. I think Ed Martinez asked me to bring that question in, like about the soundtrack. And so it was great to hear Bernard Rose talk about that Candyman soundtrack on how there was a suite made and that was what they were using to compose it. But anyway, back to Nightbreed. I'm excited about this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. I'm still out there buying CDs. So I'm hoping I hope it comes out on CD and not just on like streaming and.
Yeah, and if a big vinyl comes out with liner notes, I'll probably get that too. Yeah, so
I haven't had a record player in a while. I used to have one when I was a teenager, but
yeah, I mean, if you ever think about buying one, I wouldn't recommend those Crosley ones or whatever. They're like $50. I would either buy one used, like an old one from the 90s or something that still works, or you're looking at something like maybe $200 to $300.
Then you got to track down like replacement needles and stuff.
Yeah, but if you buy a modern one, they're pretty easy to buy from Amazon and stuff like that. So just don't get that cheap crap from China that has a little red needle thing and looks like a freaking plastic toy.
Yeah.
Because that's most of what you see nowadays. Just like the Walkmans. If you go to a Target and buy one of those cheap Walkmans, it's like $25. All of the decks and Walkmans that you see nowadays, they all have the same motor that's cheaply made in China. So yeah,
I'm a little strapped for space. My Amiga is in a tub in the garage right now.
Oh yeah,
and all my CDs are in there, and because this Airbnb thing was supposed to be temporary, but it's still going on for a while.
Well, that's good. That means you're getting another income, and you're making it work.
No, I mean that part's been nice, but I had to give up a lot of space for podcast stuff and collections and
Yep.
I had a whole apartment for that stuff, and now I don't.
I'm lucky. We should do like a walkthrough of our offices one day for the podcast.
Well, I don't even have an office now. It's all in the bedroom.
Yeah, I got my books here. But you're right. Both you and I are a little strapped for space. I'm actually looking to move soon from this apartment that I'm in because, we finally got a chance to get rid of the property that we had in Arizona. So now we're looking into places around here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and interest rates are up, but you should have, but prices should be going down.
Yeah, so we just applied for a few things and let's see what happens. But going back to this Nightbreed business. I'm curious to see what other stuff is going to come out. If it's going to be stuff that we heard in the movie, if there's going to be like alternate takes of tracks, that would be really, really fun. And
or extend, or maybe the original soundtrack we have doesn't go beyond, where the songs ended in the movie. So maybe this would be longer versions.
But I used to collect soundtracks, and sometimes there would be recording sessions that would get posted in forums and stuff.
Oh, I see.
Or, records that would come out with recording sessions for this movie. And those are like, you usually have multiple tracks of the same song. And they're usually like big editions, like 20 tracks, 30 tracks. Yeah. And you got like alternates and stuff. So those are cool. I wonder if this might be something like that. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be cool. The next one, you put this on here. Daniele Serra posted his covers for the Italian edition of the Books of Blood.
That's right. I don't think they are just coming out, but he did post them. He said at the library, and he posted the 2 volumes of Libri di Sangue. I probably just mangled that Italian there, but volumes 1 through 3 and 4 through 6. So there are 2 volumes. And
Daniele Serra has done covers for the in-house Hellraiser comic for Seraphim. He's done other covers for other international editions of Clive Barker books. He's a really cool artist.
Yeah, if you follow him on Facebook or Instagram, he started. I don't know if he started, but I just noticed that he's doing live videos sometimes where he's just filming himself painting, working on a cover on a project, which is cool. really fun to watch if you are actually watching it at a time where you're not at work or something. But yeah, that's the problem with lives. When they start, either you catch it and you watch it, or
I never can do those because it's like I'm always at work or.
Well, most of these usually end up as reels later, so you can watch them later. But sometimes I remember Instagram was doing this thing that was really annoying. If you went over an hour, the live would just stop, and then I don't think it would save it. So sometimes people were doing lives, and you can choose later if you wanted to stay up or not. And sometimes if you miss it, you lost it.
I don't even watch broadcast TV. I haven't done that in 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I can't watch something when somebody else says it's on anymore. It's always later.
Oh, I just found out something I posted yesterday. This might be of interest to you. It's not really broadcast TV, but you know that app, Pluto TV?
Yeah, the Godzilla channel. Yeah. But I've been all over that. But they posted their whole list of all of the. It's like I have all that on Blu-ray.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're not one of those guys that likes to throw on a repeat movie every once in a while, then that's no interest. But for people who haven't, and you being like the biggest Godzilla fan that I know, if there are Godzilla fans out there listening to our show, Pluto TV is going to have a channel where you can watch all of those movies just 24/7.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good chance to catch up.
But Pluto TV they do broadcast stuff at certain times, I think.
Yeah, I think they do like condensed news channels. They have select clips and stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I feel like if I'm going to watch those movies, I'd rather do it on my own time without commercials.
Yeah. And then you can watch whatever you want instead of just having to flip to it and see what's streaming right now, because you can't really pick and I think you can pick and choose on demand in Pluto TV too. But
I don't think so. I thought that Pluto TV is like cable.
No, they have an on-demand section as well. They have some movies that you can just watch on demand and stuff. Okay. But I like it. I mean, it's free. You do have to watch ads and stuff, but anyway. They're not sponsoring us. I was just talking about Godzilla because
I set up the channel on the smart TV for the Airbnb, so Pluto is on down there. But
that's
I don't
cool.
think I've ever watched it.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said, you're more of a guy who does a lot of things. You have a family. You have a job that takes a lot of hours out of your day, so you end up having to plan out what you want to watch. Yeah. Whereas I sometimes just throw stuff on the TV. It's just playing in the background, and I just put on like MST3K channel or something like that, and it's just playing there. And sometimes I'll sit and watch a little bit. Sometimes I just listen to it like background noise.
Oh, I can't do that. I mean, it's like if I'm trying to do something else and putting something on like that, I'll just end up quitting whatever I'm doing and just sit down and watch the thing. So
sure, yeah. Well, that's where the repeat part comes in, because if I've already watched that, I am familiar with it, but I'm just kind of half watching it. I don't know. It seems like a wasteful time-wise wasteful thing to do, but that's what I like to do sometimes.
Hellbound, right? Hellbound. Barbie Wilde posted this. I think I saw it on her Twitter and maybe Facebook, but she had posted that Hellbound came out 33 years ago this June, which was the June 17th, was it?
16th. Yeah, I think 16th.
June 16th.
Yeah, June 16th, 33 years ago, Hellbound came out. And there was a picture here. So Barbie Wilde posted a Peter Atkins post about it from a couple of years ago. And he posted this poster that has...
Oh, that's when it hit the #1 spot in the UK box office. So that's not the release date.
So it's fun because you can see little blurbs that they would put on the poster, like this year's best and scariest special effects from Dale Stevens at the Cincinnati Post.
A Boogeyman Bonanza.
I know. Right?
The Scream and Squirm sequel that outfrights the first.
Yeah, Showtime National Radio.
Yeah.
And then I like the one that says, "Move over, Freddy. Pinhead is the new horror hero," from Fangoria.
Wow. Fangoria didn't realize that Pinhead got killed, 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Well, yeah, but still, it kind of propelled him more into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Hellraiser 3. But I like this one here from David Barron at the New Orleans Times-Picayune. He says, "Fiendishly seductive, actually improves upon the original." And that's true. I like it, yeah.
Yeah, Hellraiser 2 is great. Shout out to that and to Pete Atkins and Barbie Wilde and Simon Bamford and Nicholas Vince and Doug Bradley and everybody who's been on our show was involved with Hellraiser 2.
It was time to play.
Yeah, time to play.
Oh, man, I got chills. You got chills?
Yeah.
Anyway, so happy birthday, Hellbound. Just a little aside here because it's a sparse week.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Peter Atkins, and
Right.
Pete Atkins announced a couple of days ago, actually, I think. He says, "I know that there are people out there who refuse to shop at Amazon. If you're one of them, but are otherwise just dying to buy my nonsense," and he says, asterisk, and then he goes, "and have conveniently forgotten how Barnes & Noble were themselves once the loaded corporate predator of bookselling." I don't know that that's true.
He kind of sabotages his own posts. It's funny.
I don't know that that's true, Pete, but sure.
Yeah.
I'm happy to tell you that Barnes & Noble will be delighted to take your money. They only carry the ebook of All Our Hearts Are Ghosts, which is Peter Atkins' most recent book. Yeah. But they also have Rumors of the Marvelous, of course, which is a beautiful anthology. Morning Star and Big Thunder in both ebook and paperback. Yeah, links in comments.
I'm reading Moontown, and then after that I'm going to start on All Our Hearts Are Ghosts.
Yeah, there's a story there about cats.
I think it's kind of interesting about, this notion about Barnes & Noble, because it's like on the one hand, yes, they're pushing all these little booksellers out, but on the other hand, they're also sort of the last bastion of like big corporate brick and mortar bookstores, because there used to be Walden Books and B. Dalton Books and what was that other one that was exactly like Barnes and Noble? God, what was it called? This is Ryan cutting in here from editing. It was called Borders. It was Borders.
Because that one also went out of business.
Exactly like Barnes and Nobles, but it had a different name, and you wouldn't know the difference if you went inside of it. But I can't remember. Yeah, God. I can't remember what it was called because it's been a few years now since they've been out of business. But Barnes & Noble is the only one left. And they're at least still, trying to carry on this thing, that physical books are still important. And I don't know how much longer that's going to last. But
yeah, more than physical books being important, I think it's interesting. There's an experience to going into a bookstore that you don't get from just going on your phone to buy a book.
Yeah,
I think. And some people might be like, yeah, but, what kind of experience are you talking about? Like, just going through the shelves and like, yeah, I mean, sometimes you end up going through the shelves and finding, other authors and you pick it up and you go through it, which is something you can't really do when you're looking at books on your phone, I guess. I mean, you could argue that, sure, there's some look inside functions on Amazon that you can click on it and see the little first pages in the index and maybe a little bit of the first chapter. It's a different thing when you actually have the book in your hand.
In buying used books on Amazon, you never know what you're going to get, right? They'll have a picture of it that doesn't match the condition of what you're buying at all. So, like, it looks perfect on the photo, and then when you get it, the front cover's been ripped off or something.
Well, that's why every time I just bought used books from Amazon, most of the times they're just cheap paperbacks, and they're like a cent or 25 cents. And I'm like, whatever comes, I'll just use it to read it and then put it in maybe one of those little libraries that you see. Little
free library. Yeah, we like those too.
Oh, man, those are great. Yeah.
We rated them for our bookshelf at the Airbnb.
That's
There's
great.
a lot of like local Alaska stuff that you can find in those, like
those are interesting.
Yeah, gardening or mushroom picking or hiking trails and things like that.
I'm particularly fond of ethnographical kind of stuff, like monographies and stuff like that talk about, hey, this place used to be, a fort, and this is pictures of 1870 something or whatever, and this is what this main street used to look like. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I like to know things about where I live. And I did not know that Barnes & Noble also sells ebooks. Did you know that?
Yes. Yeah, I did. And when Amazon started Kindle, Barnes & Noble had their own version of that. And they had their own tablet and stuff. But it didn't take off. And I don't know if that tablet, if they even still sell that tablet thing, or if they just made it an app.
Oh, that's interesting because I never really got that much into ebooks, so I never really had any readers for that. Interesting. So they also sell ebooks.
Yeah.
Hey, do you remember when Amazon started making brick and mortar stores?
Yeah, I've been in one of them, and I was in there, and I'm like, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
And I walked around and looked at it for a little bit, and then I left because this is dumb.
It was so weird. Everybody was up in arms about it. Like, what? You guys, destroyed like brick and mortar bookstores, and now you guys are opening a few.
Yeah.
I think that they never really went anywhere, but yeah, that was a weird, confusing moment.
I went to one in the University District in Seattle, and it's like, okay, yeah, now I can say I've been to one of these, I guess. But it's like here's 1/1000% of the stock of what you can get on Amazon, the website.
Yep, that's true. I guess you could also probably order it and then pick it up from the store.
I guess,
I don't.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah, for me visiting from Alaska, it didn't do anything for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we didn't put this in the title because we don't want to seem like we're clickbaiting, but there was a South African soccer coach, right? That his name was Clive Barker. And tell me the story that you were telling me.
Yeah, so it was all over my Google alerts that Clive Barker has died. I'm like, oh my God. And then it's the South African soccer coach, Clive Barker, who's been plaguing my newsfeed for the last decade. All of my Google alerts. Every time South African soccer coach Clive Barker does something, I would get it in my newsfeed. And now he's died, apparently. So rest in peace, whoever you are. I never read any news stories about you because I just would get annoyed that it was the wrong Clive Barker. But it's like when you see Clive Cussler in the bookstore.
Sure, you get excited for a second.
Yeah, there's a new book by.
That's Clive Cussler.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there was also another Clive Barker who was an artist and a theater writer.
Yeah,
I think.
a much older guy. Right.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Theater Games.
Right. And I think Clive once said in an interview that once they met and he was like, hey, I'm Clive Barker. What? Something like that. I think I remember him saying something like, and then he became much more well known. So.
Well, and before the internet, I would print out these dot matrix printer lists of books by Clive Barker, that I would get from bookstores, and they're like, "Here's things you can back order from us, and we'll get them for you." And that Theater Games was always on that list, and I just, it's like, well, it doesn't sound interesting, so I never got around to it until later on. I found out that wasn't even the same person.
Oh yeah, I remember those good old days where you went through a computer list and went to the bookstore and said, "Can you guys order this for me?" Because, like I keep saying, the first time I bought a Clive Barker book in English was from a British bookstore in Porto, Portugal, and they would import them. So, it was import. So that's how I got to read everything in English.
Yeah.
So they were expensive too. Not too expensive.
Bet. Yeah.
But
the importing from another country.
Yeah. What else have we got here? We got a little Spark Films Deathworld update, right?
Yeah, so they've got a press release, and we made a blog post to advertise their press release and help them out. Little Spark Films is making a movie called Deathworld that's, which they originally did as a fake trailer for Texas Frightmare Weekend. But now it's going to be a full-blown, long-form movie. And I sent them 2 T-shirts to put in to sneak into the movie. So, you support their film, go to their IndieGogo and help them out. And when the movie comes out, try to see if you can find the Clive Barker Podcast T-shirts.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they put a little press release from Texas Fort Worth on June 5th. And they were saying, Little Spark Films is proud to announce the production of Deathworld, a Grindhouse Gore Fest starring Corey, Ari, and Honey Sabina, the burlesque dancer, and directed by Joe Manco.
Yeah, I'm really excited to help them out and see how this movie goes. And also, I want to start a tradition where every one of their films has a Clive Barker Podcast T-shirt in it.
That's great. So I think you still have at this point, as we're recording this, another couple of weeks to contribute to their Indiegogo. So, yeah, it would be great if we could help them get this push to get funded. They have a great incentives for contributing, including a pre-order of the official soundtrack to be written and performed by world-renowned industrial artist Manifestive.
Yeah.
And you can have releases of the shooting script, sticker packs, postcards, official key art, screen use props and wardrobe, and videos to you straight from the set. So they're aiming for $111,000, and they expect to begin shooting in August or September of 2023.
All right, yeah, and they've got 14 backers so far, and they're, like you said, 15 days left. I backed it. I'm looking forward to this film coming out. The Torture was really good. That was exciting, and that one was a short film. So this will be a full length feature film by our friends. One of the T-shirts I sent them was for I thought was kind of funny. I did for the Jericho Squad 77. It's kind of an Easter egg sort of a thing.
That's great. Yeah, because both of them are in, both Catalina and Joe are in our game.
Yeah.
Jericho Squad 77.
Yeah.
Here's a little synopsis of what the story is going to be. Since we're talking about the movie, I'm just going to, because this will probably get people to contribute. The story follows Gage, a reluctant and most unlikely anti-hero. Fate and some Machiavellian manipulation thrust Gage and his fellowship of misfits into a battle for the future of humankind against Kronos, a demonic warlord who searches for a device that will enslave humanity. I like it. And if you look at Kronos the demon in their fake trailer, he looks like he's straight out of War.
Yeah. Well, and Kronos is also the name of the singer for the black metal band Venom.
Oh, cool,
yeah,
cool.
Kronos, Abaddon, and Montas.
Oh, that reminds me. This is unrelated, but I found and purchased a 45 vinyl single from Freuer, the band that did the music for, I think, Transmutations.
Oh, yeah, right. Nicole, right? Yeah.
Right. And I think I couldn't see what was on side B, but I bought the single. When I saw Freuer, I was like, well, I've never had anything by these guys, so let me go ahead and buy this. So hopefully by the time I get it, I'll let you know how the music sounds.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll have any of that soundtrack on it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a 45, so there's just 2 tracks. I don't think the first one is from the movie, so I couldn't see the side B.
Okay, so
but
chances
at least
are probably low that it is.
But but at least, it's Freuer. I never saw anything by them or listened to anything by them except for the Transmutation soundtrack.
Wow. Yeah, that's a super, super deep cut.
I know. I'm always on the lookout for this obscure stuff.
So we were looking for other topics to talk about. We didn't have a whole bunch. So I thought, you know what? I haven't looked at our reviews in a long time. So I found a review. Our most current one on Apple Podcasts is from 2 years ago.
Oh my God.
The ones before that were from 8 years ago. So, if you want to go on there and write us a review, give us. We'll read it on the air. This one is from D Sandwich. He gave us 5 stars. He said, "Very interesting podcast by fans of Clive Barker. I have enjoyed almost every episode. And then I gave it a second chance and really got into it. The episodes where they do role-playing games were particularly interesting. Nice. I also really liked the watch-along commentary for movies.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah.
Thank you, D-Sandwich. There was a part in there where he was kind of cutting on one of our guests, so I left that part out. I don't mind criticism, and I would have read the criticism if it wasn't that, because it's like, well, there's nothing we can do about that, and that person's a friend of ours, so I'm not going to... That's why I didn't read that. But if it was just if it was criticism about us, I would have read it.
Sure. I mean, it's an opinion.
Yeah.
But this is great that people, it's always fun to hear when people are enjoying the episodes and actually doing like watch along for the commentaries.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of fun doing those.
And also, I like that somebody likes our Jericho Squad stuff, because that's a lot of work. And also, and also we've gotten some negative feedback from one of our friends on that. So. Yeah,
but there's so many podcasts out there that it is totally a genre of podcast, D&D, live D&D, podcast gaming. It is definitely a genre. I mean, I myself listen to a couple, and you listen to Critical Role?
Yeah. And there's a local Fairbanks one that I listen to also. It's called Everything's a Mimic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The mimic is that chest with teeth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
That's the most common. It can look like anything, but most commonly they look like a treasure chest.
Do you recommend listening to that one? Is it fun?
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's not like Critical Role is the big one. That's like the poster child for all of these things, because they're a bunch of voice actors, so they're really good, actors, and it's like emotional and everything, and. So that one and their production value is really high. I mean, they're big enough now that they've made an animated series on Amazon Prime.
What?
Yeah,
really?
It's called The Legend of Vox Machina.
Wow, I got to check that out. Oh,
yeah,
I've seen that. I've seen things on my Amazon Prime for that. The Legend of Vox Machina.
Yeah,
that comes from those guys.
Yeah, they made that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I'm going to give it a try then if you like that stuff.
That's their first campaign is Vox Machina, and their second one is Mighty Nine, and now they're on their third campaign right now, and I'm a little behind on that because it's like I just can't keep up. All of their episodes are like 4 hours long, and they do them every week, so it's hard to keep up.
Sure. Yeah. That's why sometimes I tend to binge on podcasts because I don't have time to listen to them every day. I've listened to that Martin Mercer one and James Mastriani.
Me too. I'm all caught up on those now. I've listened to all of them.
The Wrong Side of Hollywood. It's also pretty fun. They get some interesting guests there. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And it's fun. Their podcast is fun to listen to.
And hopefully Ed Martinez will have more on his interviews with the people who worked on Hellraiser, the 2022 Hellraiser. Yeah. So that's also coming. So that should be interesting. We'll be glad to talk about that when it hits YouTube.
Yeah, that'll be good. And so, and then I tried to find other reviews of ours, but honestly, like most podcast outlets don't have written reviews. They have either they have stars or they have like you can click a little heart or you just subscribe and that's it. So Amazon Audible, we've got only 2 reviews and they're 3 stars. So yikes. if you listen on there, maybe help us out a little bit. Spotify, we have 4 reviews and they're 5 stars. So thank you for Spotify people. On iTunes, it's formerly iTunes, now it's Apple Podcasts, right? Because they split it out. We have, I put 3, we have 30 ratings. I missed a digit.
Wow.
Yeah, we
30.
have 30 ratings because that's where we've been the longest. 4.2 average out of 5, so pretty good.
Yeah, that's great. I got to check that out.
Yeah, if anybody has any feedback, or things that you wish was different, let us know.
My place of choice for podcasts has become Spotify because I got Spotify Premium. And I used to use iTunes a lot, but then once they got out of that cover shuffle, I kind of stopped using it. And I was like, I like the cover shuffle. And it was a pretty heavy program.
What's the cover shuffle?
It was when you used to see like the covers of the albums on a window on top of your iTunes.
Yeah.
You remember if you had an iPod, you could flip through them.
Oh,
and then they took that out of iTunes.
Yeah,
and
man, that was like 10 years ago I know I liked that too.
Yeah.
But no, I don't use Apple Podcasts anymore either. I use Overcast. And I think that one is a multi-platform. And you just sign in with your account. And you can follow it if you have it on your computer or your phone and your iPad, and it'll pick up where you left off on any podcast across platforms.
I also started using. I know this has become like a podcast discussion, but I've always also started using Pocket Casts.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I got to update. We were talking about this before we started recording, but I've got to update the list of things that you can subscribe to us on, because on the side of the website, because some of those, like, you click on them and their links are broken. Some of them don't exist anymore. Stitcher is going out of business.
Yeah, they're bought by SiriusXM.
Yeah, and Stitcher was a big one.
Yeah, they were out there for 15 years.
Yeah,
it's going to shut down on August 29.
Yeah, and some of these I don't. You click on like Double Twist, and I don't even know if that's even a thing anymore.
A double twist? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. It used to be there were only like 3 or 4 places to listen to podcasts, but now there's a ton. And yeah, I gotta.
Yeah, including the podcast websites, because there's always podcasts that you can just download the episodes straight from their website.
Well, yeah, and we have that, CliveBarkerCast.com. You can stream it right out of the blog post for the episode. Or I would prefer, that you subscribe somewhere, because then we know then you're downloading every episode and you're keeping up with us. Sometimes we get people that ask me questions on Facebook, on Messenger. They're like, "Hey, Ryan, what do you know about this?" I'm like, "I wish you'd just listen to the podcast."
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time We dedicate a lot of time to talking about Barker news and releases and stuff. So,
Yeah, we don't usually pester people to like and subscribe and whatever, but please like and subscribe us and go to our TeePublic store, because you can find a lot of interesting things there.
Apple has stopped calling it subscribe, and now they call it follow, because subscribe now means like a paid version. We don't even have a paid version. It's all free. Right.
We don't put any of our stuff behind Patreon or any like premium like releases, even though I subscribe to at least one premium podcast. I pay $5 a month for Mark Maron's podcast, WTF.
Oh, that one, like the back catalog is all behind a paywall. That's how it is, right?
Yeah, like a big chunk of the back catalog is behind a paywall, but they also offer every week alternate material, including producers' cuts and stuff like that. Things that other shows do that as well.
The Twit network. This week in technology, I've been thinking about joining their Patreon and Discord and stuff, and they do Mac Break Weekly, which I really like.
Yeah. I'm sure it's very interesting. And when you join those premiums, you have more interesting episodes and more interesting content that sometimes they put up,
Yeah. Yeah, the problem for me is that I would do that and I would be paying money for something I'm not using, probably, because it's like finding the time to listen to all that stuff. I can't even keep up with all the podcasts that I listen to now. I always listen to our podcast, so I hear it the way that listeners hear it, and I'm over 100 episodes behind now.
Right. Yeah.
It's always like, I'll do that one later. There's this other one I want to listen to, and I've already heard our episode twice, because once when we recorded it and once when I edit.
Right. I don't really go back and listen to our episodes. The last time I think I did that was the Halloween commentary track on Halloween a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I watched Halloween on TV, and I started playing the commentary track on my own phone, and I was like, you know what, this was kind of fun.
Yeah, actually, our podcast is, I like it. It's actually not too bad, but on the other hand, it's not new for us when we're listening to it, right? We've heard it before.
Yep. But go ahead and check out our TeePublic website. It's teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast, and you'll find some really cool merch there. We've got T-shirts, stickers, totes, tapestries, pins, wall art, mugs, pillows, hoodies. The thing about TeePublic is you don't make a lot of money on it, but they sure slap your merch on a lot of products, which can be pretty fun if you're a fan of the podcast.
I got a new suitcase the other day, and I bought a bunch of stickers, like bumper sticker style stuff from our TeePublic store to stick on the suitcase. So now it's all loaded up with Clive Barker Podcast, and I've got a sticker of that Baphomet design that you did.
I love our T-shirts.
10th anniversary one.
Yeah, I love our T-shirts. I love stickers, and put it on your water bottle or whatever.
Yeah.
And I love the mug that has the pelican and the pinhead, too, because it's really beautiful art.
Yeah, that works out really well on a mug. Yeah, it's really neat. And, we only make like $2 or $3 for every sale, but, it's something to help contribute to our monthly fees from Libsyn, our host, and the domain names to keep those up, and the web hosting for the blog. Because the blog, every year they charge more because it's bigger, because we're storing more stuff on it.
It all piles up.
Yeah, it's up to like $200 a year, something like that now. Yeah,
so it turns out that we thought we had sparse news, but actually we've been talking for quite a bit.
Yeah.
And what if you guys out there know about other stuff that we didn't cover? That would be great if you could comment on our listeners group, because that's the main hub where people can go in and give us feedback. So it's on Facebook. It's the BarkerCast listeners group. Join that and tell us what you think. If you
or the Discord. That's kind of the Discord is kind of a neat little secret place for discussion. There's not a lot of people on there yet, but if you're on Discord, you might as well join our Discord server, and we can talk about stuff there without all the Facebook crap.
And of course, you can always message us directly through Facebook or Twitter for Ryan, and email.
Of which, we did just get one person saying something on our Discord for this episode. He says, maybe talk about any of Clive's books you'd like to see adapted into a different medium, or possibly talk about books that have a similar feel to Clive's works. I guess so. The first part of that, there's really obvious ones. I would like to see a limited TV series of Imagica, The Great and Secret Show, and Everville, and the third book of the art, Aberrat, of course.
I would like to see a cartoon show of Thief of Always. If that ever materializes, would be great.
Yeah. And I love this new sort of limited series format where they take a book and then they just do episodes until the plot of the book runs out, until they get to the end of the story. That's great. Then they're not constrained by the 2.5 hour, or 2 hour time frame of a feature film.
Right. And I think one of the things I would also like to see, which unfortunately this might be too ambitious, and it depends on whether or not Clive will ever get back to this, but
what are you looking at over there?
Galilee. I'm looking at the bookshelf. I'm trying to come up with the name of the book, which is Galilee.
Oh, yeah.
Galilee started out this really ambitious story of the Gearys and the Barbarossas, right?
Yeah.
And that would have made an amazing TV show. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see anything else for Galilee. Still an interesting book. But
Galilee was the first book of a series that's probably not going to happen. I hate to say it, but
yeah.
It
was a great start, though. It was a great beginning of a story, but I would have loved to have seen that materialize into more sequels and possibly a TV show, because it would be perfect for I think a TV show.
Yeah, I would love that too. That's a great one.
Two families kind of having this dynamic between them.
Yeah. I would love to see Clive Barker's combined world turned into a role-playing game. That people play once a month.
That's what we're trying to do, actually.
Yeah. And so coming next, we are going to be doing Jericho Squad 77. So we'll be returning to our D&D game there, where they're going to be rescuing their friend Ralph from
the circus.
From the Infernal Parade.
Yeah, he's already survived one Minotaur, but will he survive this?
Yeah, actually, that was scary. I didn't know how that was going to come out, but he got a critical hit that also stunned his opponent. So his opponent didn't even get to do much. He just got slaughtered.
Joe is becoming a really serious player.
Yeah. So that was great. And we'll be continuing our A to Z of horror coverage by doing another commentary for Land of the Dead. So that movie's not covered by A to Z of horror because it didn't exist when that book came out, right? But the other Romero movies did. So we're continuing. We did the first three. We might as well do the last theatrical film in that series, Land of the Dead. So that's what we're going to do. We'll have more classic commentaries, more news episodes, maybe more interviews this year.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that, and thanks for listening. And join the Clive Barker listeners group. Give us feedback.
Yeah, and the Discord. And thanks. That was Kamui 003 that gave us those topics. He said, and the other one he said books that have a similar feel to Clive's work. That's tough. I mean, Neil Gaiman is kind of similar, but not. China Miéville is another one. He's sort of a little bit like Clive, but not really. I mean, these are all people that are pretty original. I mean, I guess that's what makes them similar is that they're so original and so of themselves. But
sure, yeah. Or Ramsey Campbell also has kind of a similar horror vibe sometimes. And Peter Atkins, I guess. Mm-hmm. Clive Barker became an obsession for me because he did it differently than people used to do at that time. Yeah. At least I felt it that way. So I'm also a big fan of more regular kind of fantasy, which is not so much like Clive, which is not something that happens like with modern characters and, philosophical transformations and stuff like that. But I was more of a sci-fi fan when I was young, when I got into Clive Barker. I was more into Philip K. Dick, Isaac Asimov, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then I got it. Clive Barker was really kind of like my gateway into horror. And once I got into horror, it got me more into movies, not so much into books. Although I did read some stories by Stephen King. I did read some horror by, old writers like Henry James, M.R. James, Sheridan Le Fanu, and other names like that. And I was a big Robert E. Howard fan, that kind of fantasy, Conan, Solomon Kane, Bram McMorn.
I liked some really kind of out there fantasy science fiction crossover stuff like Roger Zelazny, Creatures of Light and Darkness.
Sure, yeah. I don't think there's really anything that's kind of similar to Clive Barker. That's the reason why I gravitated towards it with such passion.
Yeah.
He sounded different from anything else that I had read so far. So
I think what would make Neil Gaiman sort of similar is that it's sort of contemporary setting and fantasy, but also it has deities or gods that are sprout from the imagination of human beings, and that's a kind of a similarity that they have.
Right, yeah, Neil Gaiman, that's perfect. Yeah, I was also into Neil Gaiman, but I got into Neil Gaiman after I got into Clive Barker. So
yeah. Same here.
Yeah. Yep. So, it's this was a good chat. I'm glad we did a little news episode today.
Yeah. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Twitter, or our new Discord server. Watch for our annual Kickstarter fundraisers to get some cool stuff, and you can buy t-shirts on our TeePublic store. Go to tpublic.com and search for BarkerCast. Opening music by Ray Norrish, end credit music by Matt Furness.
Thanks for listening.